How's it, guys? So I got a Biqu-bx printer in on loan from DIYElectronics. They sent it to me to demo, to try it out, to see what it's like and give them some feedback on what I feel about this printer. So I thought I'd take an opportunity and do a video about it at the same time. So all in all, I got started with this printer, and the first thing that absolutely struck me when they gave it to me was the size of the screen. The screen is massive. It is just enormous. It's a touch screen and really beautiful. It's a 7-inch screen on this printer. I think that's unheard of in printers. I have not seen a printer with such a big screen and a nice screen. The one annoying thing that it has is if we turn it on, you're going to listen to this. So I've just turned it off. It's going to beep. And then when we turn it back on, we get a series of beeps that come in. And they get used to that sound. That sound happens a lot. So, but other than that, it's an amazing printer. If you listen right now, it is on. There's no fans on. So they cut all fans to the motherboard, to the print head, everything when it's sitting idle. So it's really quiet when it's sitting idle. Once it starts printing though, it does get a little bit on the noisy side. I noticed that some of the fans are a little bit on the loud side. But the print quality and the print performance is nice and quiet. This is an amazing machine. Unfortunately, I can't show you an unboxing because this is how I got the machine from DIYElectronics. And I had a couple of issues with it straight off, but also had a couple of huge successes. So the first thing I had to try, before we get into all the specs and all this of this printer, the first thing I had to try was printing with TPU. This thing has got a direct drive print head on it, and so there's no Bowden tubes, so TPU will be perfect for this. And I printed this case for an S9 phone. First attempt, no problems. It is beautiful, it is solid, it is rigid, it is nice. It's a beautiful case for this phone. So my dad, he lost his phone, so I needed to get him a new phone. So I've got this one lying around, so I found this case, and I printed this case off Thingiverse, and it is an exquisite print. The print is absolutely gorgeous. TPU, first attempt, no issues. So that got me really excited about this machine. So I then tried to print in PLA, and these were my first attempts at printing PLA. I had issues beyond issues, terrible overhangs, all this sort of thing, and I couldn't figure it out. Eventually I realized that the fan wasn't working, the part cooling fan. So the part cooling fan was on, but there was no air blowing. So I had a look under the machine, and there was no nozzle for it. There was no air direction nozzle for the part cooling fan. So that got me a little bit upset, and I phoned through to DIYElectronics, and they said it usually comes with this, but in the demo model it got lost, so they didn't have it for me. So I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do now? Then I thought, well, I can use this printer to print in ABS. It's another great test of the printer. It claims it can print ABS. So I thought, let me print in ABS. And I printed the part cooling duct using ABS. First attempt, beautiful print, perfect ABS print, and stuck beautifully to this magnetic build plate, which I'm really impressed with. It's a nice magnetic build plate that it stuck perfectly to. And I put it into the head here, and I started printing, and then we got a perfect print out of PLA. So all in all, there were a couple of little finickies and fiddles that I had to do with this machine, but once I got it running, it runs like an absolute dream. It's got a direct drive, a Hemera type direct drive that weighs an amazing 211 grams, guys. The original Hemera hot end direct drive is far heavier than that. So they've come up with their own design, and it is exquisite. I think it works really well. Really easy to load filament, no issues loading filament, and you've got a little lever here that you can loosen it, or you can just do it with the wheel, the thumb wheel, and I had no issues with that. The other thing I really liked about the machine was when I wanted to take this printer head off to go and have a look at it and clean it up, you unplug an HDMI cable. Yes, not a video. This is an HDMI cable, which is a little bit odd. I've never seen a printer with an HDMI cable on it, but it works. So I'm a little bit surprised that it works so well, but yes, it works fine. But you unplug your HDMI cable. I'm a little bit worried about this wearing out over time. We'll see. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't get to keep this machine. And then you undo 4 screws over here. Let me actually do that quickly. So we take out the 4 bolts. It's just these 4 simple bolts out of the side of the gantry, and we've got the whole entire print head here that we can work on the nozzle if there's an issue with the nozzle, anything. I think this is actually create a really nice design, quick and easy to remove and replace if you need to replace the part, and it's quite an impressive design. I really like that I could quickly get in there. Put this part cooling fan duct onto here, and away we went, and we carried on printing. And I got my successful prints out of PLA. So it's also got auto bed leveling as standard. So you get this induction probe here that will probe your bed via your G code, and then you get your nice level bed, and away it prints. I didn't have any bed adhesion problems. It got to the right level every single time. So obviously that was calibrated by the guys at DIYElectronics, but once it's been calibrated, it is perfect. So the automatic bed leveling is fantastic on this printer, and also the fact that you can remove this whole print head without any complex wires and all that. I actually really like that. So it's an interesting design, but I like the way they've implemented. It's got dual Z lead screws, so the 2 lead screws at the back here for stability. Don't know how necessary that is because of the fact that the Ender 3s have only 1 and they work well, but it's for additional stability, and I do like that. It's got a print build size volume of 250 by 250 by 250, so a little bit bigger than your Ender 3 of 232. So it's quite a nice build size. It's not massive, but it's good. Also got a Biqu-bx Tech 32-bit controller in here. It's a BTT SKRSC, and yeah, it's a fantastic little motherboard, 32-bit. It doesn't give any skips at all or anything like that. So all in all, I'm actually really quite impressed with this machine. I must show you another thing. If you press and hold here, it will ask if you want to go to the Marlin setting, if you want to go to the Big Tree setting, or if you want to go to the Raspberry Pi. So you can plug a Raspberry Pi directly into the back here, and then you've got your Raspberry Pi controls for, I know it's a little bit finicky to set up. Unfortunately, I didn't get the daughter board to put the Raspberry Pi on, but it's a bit of a finicky setup, but once you get it set up, it runs perfectly. It's really good. So I like the Marlin if you need to go into some of those more coarse settings. But the touchscreen, I love the touchscreen, and it really is a beautiful touchscreen. Gives you lots of information. That little buzzer, I think they could do a little trick with that and make that a little bit quieter, because man, that thing is loud and annoying. Because when it starts printing, it goes through a cycle check, and every time it does a cycle check, it beeps. So yeah, and also when it does the probing, it beeps on every single probe. So great printer, but a little bit of annoyance that if you could turn that off, that'll be fantastic. Other than that, there's not much more I can talk about this machine. It looks like an S3. This is not carbon fiber, by the way. This is faux carbon fiber, so it's a sticker that they've stuck on the aluminium. It looks pretty, it looks nice, and it's a good performer. As I say with you, I had no problems printing TPU. I had no problems printing ABS. In a non-enclosure, there was no enclosure in this room, which was not that warm at the time, and I had no adhesion problems, no bending, no warping, no nothing. So a really good little machine, and quite an impressive. I wouldn't mind owning one of these myself. One of these days I'll get my hands on one of these. But yes, a good machine, a good performer, and works really well. I don't think there's anything more I can say about it. So guys, thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel. I just want to say thanks to Don from 3D Drone, or 3 Drone, sorry, .co.za. He's a great supporter of my channel. Please go and support him. He supports me on Patreon. He supports me with information, with tech, which I'll show you shortly. Just a great all-round guy that really does give excellent customer service, and is really a great supporter of this channel. So I just want to give a special shout out to him. Thanks guys. Yes, thank you phone for that, and have a great day. Be safe, be well, and I will see you soon. That's a promise. Cheers.